Hi guys, how are you doing today? Hope you are having a sunny day. Ready for some new stories? Let's go to the first one, about OP's sister-in-law, who uninvited OP from her wedding because her brother didn't want OP there. Listen to the story, guys, to find out what OP did about that, and of course, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My brother, 28 male at the time, married Maggie, 29 female, in 2019, pre-virus. Maggie is my, 25 female at the time, ex-boyfriend's, 25 male, sister. They met as a result of X and I being in a relationship. X and I dated for 3 years and broke up in 2018 after he cheated. He's engaged to the other woman currently. Obviously, I was hurt at first, but neither of us were happy, and this was a chance to get out. I had no contact with X, never spoke to the other woman, and minded my own business. I also didn't treat Maggie any differently because she's his sister. To me, she is just my brother's partner, and I always acted like a friend to her. Maggie was definitely a bridezilla. After the engagement, she took control of wedding planning and made all of the decisions. Only thing my brother chose were the suits for himself and the groomsmen, although even then, it had to be a Maggie-approved style and color. Maggie sat me down one day and told me that she didn't want there to be any family drama on her wedding day. She'd spoken to X, and apparently, he said he'd feel uncomfortable if he had to be around me at the wedding, especially as his fiancée would be there too. This surprised me because, like I say, I didn't talk to him and was genuinely over it. I reassured Maggie that she needn't worry, and she said she'd made the tough decision to uninvite me, and she hoped I'd understood that it was her day and she just wanted it to be a happy one. Excuse me? It's my brother's day too, and I want to see him get married. I called my brother afterwards. He was aware of Maggie's choice, and he wanted me to be there, but he didn't want to upset Maggie by saying no to her. I love him, but he has the backbone of a slug and rarely stands up for himself. My parents were furious at how unreasonable Maggie was being, since they know full well I wouldn't have made a fuss about X. They talked to her, but she wouldn't budge. Not your wedding, not your choice. I ignored Maggie's request and turned up at the wedding with my parents anyway, and it was a lovely ceremony. There wasn't a wedding meal for me, but I nipped out to grab dinner from a cafe before returning to the reception and having a great time, dancing with my brother, drinking, and just enjoying myself. I didn't acknowledge X or his fiancée once. I didn't need to. I was there for my brother. He told me he was so happy I'd attended, and it wouldn't have been the same without his little sister. Maggie didn't kick off, but she gave me dirty looks the whole time, and I could see her whispering to people, who would then also give me dirty looks. After the day, she blew up at me for undermining her and ruining her wedding. Nothing happened. She just didn't enjoy it because she spent it feeling angry. I know it's crappy to crash a wedding, but I feel like I had a right to be there as it was my brother's wedding too. Am I the a-hole? Well, in my opinion, Maggie is in the wrong here because she should have invited OP. But both Maggie and OP's brother agreed not to invite her, and OP didn't actually have a right to be at a wedding she hadn't been invited to. OP's brother is now married to this woman, and OP can't always override their decisions in the hope that it's what he secretly wants OP to do. And now let's see if the community agrees with me. Deleted user says, not the a-hole, but beware. Maggie is going to ruin your family. Her disrespectful behavior goes way beyond being a bridezilla. That's controlling, selfish, and unreasonable, and your brother is clearly a jellyfish for letting her get away with it. Wait until they bring a child into this world. She'll use the kid as a pawn, just as she did this BS wedding invitation. 90s lady says, everyone sucks here. Your ex for cheating, and then asking his sister not to invite you when he was the one who had a problem and should have been uninvited. The sister for uninviting you. The brother for not having his family's back. You for crashing the wedding. Dr. Crash 38 says, not the a-hole. I understand the whole wedding my way thing, but your brother wanted you there, and since it was his wedding too, he gets as much of a say as his bride did. Kudos to you for how you acted at the wedding. The next time this comes up with her, ask her other than showing up. She needs to state one thing you did to make her big day bad. My daughter was born 3 years ago. After 36 hours in labor, I had a C-section. After I had trouble breastfeeding, my milk never came in properly, and after 2 months of pumping and supplements and praying and crying, we gave up and switched to formula completely. I had my son 3 months ago, via C-section. I tried breastfeeding, but again it didn't work. I gave up quicker this time, and we're using formula. My mother-in-law spent the last 3 years crowing about my failures as a mother. All her children were born naturally. She had no trouble breastfeeding. C-sections are for quitters. Her body was just made to be a mother. But don't worry, dear. I'm sure you're good at other things. Blah, blah, blah. It's ramped up with the new baby. Every time I see her, which has been a lot, just little passive-aggressive digs at me. My husband has asked her to stop. My father-in-law told her to stop, but she just plays dumb. For 3 years I kept quiet to her face, but she made me cry more than once in private. There was a little while, about 2 weeks postpartum, where I went to a seriously dark place and questioned whether she was right, whether I shouldn't have become a mother, and if they would be better off without me. I'm feeling better now, and those feelings aren't all her fault, but she sure didn't help. Important info. My husband has 2 brothers. His mom had a late-term miscarriage of her only daughter, and she always wanted a girl. Anyway, this past weekend they were over for dinner, and my husband was feeding the baby. She starts in loudly about how she never needed bottles because she made so much milk, and how she guessed she was just such a natural mother, and how it just seemed so wrong to give a baby formula. And she was such a perfect mother, practically a fertility goddess, and I was such a failure. I'm sleep-deprived and hormonal, and I've just put up with this for years, and I just snapped. I said, at least all my babies are alive. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I wished I could stuff it back in. She got real quiet, and they left pretty quick after, without really saying anything. I firmly believe I'm the a-hole, but my husband thinks she deserved it after all the pain she intentionally caused me. So tell me you're the a-hole or what? That was a horrible thing to say, but frankly, OP was pushed to it. Was it the best way to address this? Probably not. But I don't think one harsh comment, after she's been on OP's case for literally years, is enough to say OP is in the wrong here. Sounds like she needed the extra hard push to shut up, since several people had told her to stop and she refused. Sometimes it's necessary. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Ars Holier Than Thou says, "Oh, wow. I was expecting you to ask if you should cut her out of your life and stop her from seeing your children. I'm really not sure if this is worse or not. I'm impressed you said it, and it may have been the nuclear option that finally gets through to her. If she's going to criticize your body's ability to nurture children, it's a fitting response you made in kind. You went with a jerk move, but I watched Team America again a few days ago and was reminded that it takes a jerk to deal with an a-hole. So, not the a-hole. Burn the place to the ground." Char on the Moon says, "Everyone sucks here, but honestly, she was worse. It was a low blow on your part, but she spent 3 years being horrifically cruel to you because she got dealt a better hand in the birth and breastfeeding department. I can't believe you and your husband put up with that. Did you and/or your husband ever have a serious talk with her about how mean she is to you and how much pain she's caused you?" Feed the Pug says, "I wish I could say you're the a-hole, or at least everyone sucks here. But I wanted to punch your mother-in-law just reading about what she put you through. And while my eyes widened in horror when I got to the part where you snapped at her, an equal part of me was celebrating you for finally shutting her up. She made her bed, not the a-hole." Me, 26 female, am the youngest of my siblings, 4 brothers. All my life, it always seemed like my brother, let's call him Jake, always got everything from our parents. We grew up in a household full of love and bipolar. We all would constantly fight with each other, but after I became a young adult, my mom always let my brother get away with everything. I would always be the one who was put down because of my weight and how I shouldn't do this or that. She would always say, because he's a boy, so it's different. My brother has had wild parties, smoked W, joyride to go see his girlfriend, got a tattoo without permission, huge across the chest. It always seemed like she treated him way better than she treated me. She will always say that she treats me the way I treat her, which is not true. I've always been there for my mom. Just in the past 2 years, I've had my credit card ran up with expenses we couldn't afford for. I kept telling her it was for emergencies only. She did not care, because my parents do not see money the way I do, or even know how to manage it. My mother has always had this control, I think. It's because I've always wanted her approval for as long as I can remember. She has this way of making me feel terrible for not helping her, or paying for anything when I don't have the money. She promised to make payments every payday, but I've only gotten 4 payments in the last year. With my 0 APR up in February, and the majority of the credit still needs $4,000 to make the payments cheaper from there on. The plan was for my mom to help me with the sum of it, and I would be able to take over the rest. We were driving home and asked me if I could chip in $500 for my brother and sister-in-law, who just recently had their first baby boy, as their Christmas gift. Every penny I have practically just goes to payments on my credit card, my car note, rent, etc. So I told her I couldn't do that, and that she shouldn't either, because she promised to help me with my payments. She blew up at me, telling me I was selfish for not wanting to help my brother with his debt, so the weight of that could be lifted off his shoulders. I started shouting at her, asking her why his debt was more important than mine. I asked her why she always puts him first, even though he's immature and irresponsible with everything he has. She then redirected the conversation to, "You're the one who is immature and irresponsible, and you don't have any children, so you wouldn't understand." I wish I could say I was shocked, but I honestly wasn't, because she confirmed everything I always knew. So, am I the a-hole? OP knows how her mother is, and that Jake is the golden child who can do no wrong. OP should not be giving her mother any money, ever. OP knows where it will end up. I think OP really should have cut her off earlier and not let the debt mount. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Aspara Warsoth says, "Not the a-hole. Keep saying no to her and tell her you will not be giving them a single penny. She's clearly treating you like a black sheep." Hegemonic Smegma says, "Not the a-hole, but you are a doormat. Your mother will never pay you back fully. Get as much as you can repaid by her as soon as possible, and tell her you still expect to be repaid in full within a specific period of time, though that's not likely to happen. Never give her another penny. Make sure she has no access to any of your finances, bank accounts, credit cards, etc." JFC. NGDG Unpunished says, "Not the a-hole. Immediately stop anyone else's access to your credit cards, bank account, etc. Sounds as if you should have learned to say no a long time ago, but you're doing it now, so good for you. Practice saying it in the mirror so it rolls off your tongue no matter what nonsense is being hurled at you. Clearly your parents don't have your best interest at heart, so you'll need to build and fortify those boundaries." I was with my ex for almost 6 years and married for about 7 months. I should have never got married, I know, but my divorce was finalized during the summer. I met my current boyfriend before my divorce, but we were never serious until after everything was finalized. We've been talking for about 8 months, and technically dating for about 5 months now. Obviously, there was a huge age gap between my ex and I, one of the many reasons the relationship didn't work. But my parents normally got along with him because he was close to their age. They went to many football games together while we were still together, and my mom told me she invited him and his best friend to one last night. She told me she would not bring me up at all, and if he tried to bring me up, she would not allow it, so I really didn't find it too concerning. My boyfriend wanted to FaceTime my mom to see what they were doing, and I told him truthfully that that's not a good idea because my ex is there. To my surprise, he completely flipped the script and got mad at me for it. I told him I have no control over what they decide to do, but reassured him there would be no conversation of me or him, and also told him that I have absolutely no communication with my ex whatsoever. He told me he's extremely unhappy with the situation and thought so highly of this relationship until now. I couldn't understand why, so I kept asking him what I did wrong. He kept saying that I didn't do anything wrong, but if the roles were reversed, I'd feel the same way. After a while of back and forth, he told me he's considering breaking up with me over this. I cried and asked why he would do that when it has nothing to do with me. He just kept saying he has a right to be unhappy right now, and I validated his feelings many times and never dismissed them because his feelings are valid all the time, as are mine. He then tells me he doesn't think he wants to break up, but does want to take a step back because we're moving too fast. I asked him what he means by this, and he said that he always had concerns since we started talking that I would go back to my ex, and here we are. I told him I have zero interest in going back to him and have not even seen him, let alone talked to him, since the divorce, and even before, all communication with him was about the divorce. He said he still wants to talk to me and hang out here and there. But I told him I have too many feelings involved with him at this point to just hang out casually when we spend every day together now, and have talked about moving in together, having children, etc., etc. He told me he no longer wants anything serious with me, and I just broke down crying because I feel like I've just wasted my time. I've constantly tried to reassure him I don't talk to my ex. I apologized on my parents' behalf and told him I'd be having a serious talk with him today. It almost seems like he was looking for a reason to step away from me, and this was a good one. Do you think his reaction is justified, or does it seem like he is overreacting? I'm just so lost right now. Edited to add, Guys, I know the age gap is weird. I see that now, hence the divorce. I was blinded before and thought nothing wrong of it. My parents didn't want me to marry this guy, but didn't interfere because I am an adult. Yes, I'm in therapy. I talked with my parents just now and told them how I felt, and they understand and said it won't happen again. This does not fix the issue with my current boyfriend. Another edit to add. I had another conversation with my parents to make sure we were all on the same page. I told them it was very inappropriate to invite him to the game with them, and it affected my current relationship, and will affect all my other ones moving forward. They both agreed with me and were very understanding. They apologized profusely and told me there would 100% be no more contact. Rip Dirtbag says, "Sorry, your ex-husband who started dating you when you were maybe 18 and he was 35? Why are your parents so comfortable with the ex who was inappropriately older than you? Were they all friends before you and ex got together? Generally, I'm not going to endorse this type of insecurity, but there's enough ickiness here with the age gap and the older man's relationship with your parents that I think your boyfriend has every right to find this weird." Anything But Olive says, "I think you need to stop dating and maybe get yourself into therapy if you haven't already. I'm reading your comments, and I don't think you realize how toxic both of these relationships are, and your relationship with your parents is. They are totally okay with their 18-year-old child. Yes, you were still a kid who probably just went to prom, getting with a 35-year-old man. That is not okay. This is not normal. There's no reason a 35-year-old grown man should be dating an 18-year-old. Now you're with a boyfriend that you acknowledge has a drinking problem. You need to consider getting help for yourself if you think both of these relationships are or were healthy, because they are not." New Arrival says, "I would agree that you didn't do anything wrong, but from your boyfriend's point of view, a situation where your parents are besties with your ex can't be a comfortable situation for him, and it does add risk of the two of you reconnecting through your parents.